Okay, we're going live.
Okay. Let's have fun.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Turn Up the Volume, a live series dedicated to authenticity, finding your purpose, and aligning who you are with what you do while turning up the volume to your voice because your voice matters. So those of you who don't know me, I'm Gina Ziola, and I thrive in helping you succeed and win in all of your areas in life and business. And we here at the Abundance Movement thrive in being rebels and not following the status quo. We thrive in showing you how to make an impact, create your legacy and generational wealth without labels, hierarchy, or social classes. So, I'm also the co-founder of the Abundance Movement, a membership dedicated to helping you build and scale heart-centered empires while earning 100% passively and showing you how to shout out loud by being authentically you, thriving in a crippling world, aligning your soul with your purpose to go on to create a life and business that you love. And I have invited some amazing, incredibly successful guests to show you how to no longer just survive, but thrive in a crippling world. And just a reminder, for a very limited time, we are offering the opportunity to register for our Wealth Toolkit, the Abundance Wallet, for only just the first 300 people. So head to abundancepower.org/abundance-wallet to register now. And this link will also be in the description afterwards. And I am so excited for my guest today, Bev Joy Ehrlich. Is that right? Have I pronounced
Beautiful.
who is a relationship coach. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so privileged. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gina, for having me. It's lovely to be with you.
Thank you. So, one of the things that I really would like to discuss with you, especially around relationships, is how do we create a true, authentic relationship with ourselves and that inner dialogue that we talk to ourselves, and how do we make that more positive and thriving for individuals?
Right, beautiful question. Before I answer that, can I just offer on the name of your podcast, Turning Up the Volume? It's so beautiful what you were saying about voice, because Michelle Gilligan says it so beautifully. You can't have relationship without voice, and you can't have voice without relationship.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
I do teach to turn down the volume. We don't really need to use it in the loudest way, but that we can actually hear each other sometimes when we speak at a more normal tone. But I just want to do, because that's the name of your program and of course of your podcast, and I think it was so appropriate. So how do we get around some of the nasties that go on between our ears, right?
Yeah.
It's such a powerful question. So I'm going to try and give you a very short answer. If you think of, let me think of a metaphor, a battery, right? Like our cell phones, right? They need to be plugged in. The battery in our head that's running down and ruling our lives a lot of the time is what was plugged in, and the new battery was what was given to us when we were little children by our caretakers, our parents or other caretakers. And that just kind of releases itself all the time in our head. So if you felt that you weren't good enough, that kind of talk will come in all the time. If you felt that you had to take care of someone and you were too young, then caring can be seen as a burden. Many sort of negative self-talk that comes from that much younger place that we were told about ourselves. You are a. So we might not have been told it in those terms, but that's our inner voice. That's our inner blueprint, if you like. You are A. And how do we change that? That is such a great question. So, what we see very often in our adult relationships is that, and this is based on the work of Terry Real and Pierre Melody, we have three parts to us. We have a wounded child, which is very young, from moments of birth to say 5, very overwhelmed, the part that really just wants to climb into your lap and cry for a thousand years. Then we have the adaptive child, which adapted to what was going on, from about 5 to, let's say, 18. It adapted to what was going on in your home at the time. It could either be abandonment, neglect, abuse of any sort. And the abuse that I deal with is relational abuse. So it just could be an everyday comment about you, that you're not good enough, or your sister does such a good job, why can't you? So it's not necessarily the abuse that we think of as what we call big trauma, like, you know, a physical boundary violation, say sexual abuse or being beaten, that we can understand, right?
Yeah.
Why we have that negative voice. But it's the more subtle abuse that we all have times in our lives when we didn't feel received or heard or understood in our young lives. And then the third part is the wise adult, the part that's sitting here with me now, who's talking, who's nuanced, who can take in my perspective, I can take in your perspective. But very often in our lives, it's the adaptive child that's black and white, it's harsh, it's unforgiving, it's relentless, that shows up in our adult relationships.
Hmm.
And what was adaptive then, what we needed to do to survive those early years, is no longer adaptive now. It was an intelligent function then. It helped us survive. It was brilliant. If we needed to run to our room so we didn't hear the screaming or the yelling, that was a good strategy for them. It's not working now in our relationships, that when our partner starts screaming and yelling at us, we just want to run away from the scene. So that's number one, becoming aware of where is our adaptive child showing up in our adult relationships, making a mess of it, because the adaptive child is not interested in relationship. The adaptive child is interested in protection and disconnect. And resources are limited. There's not enough for you and me. We are adversaries. We're enemies. Whereas the wise adult is relational, sees the big picture. We're in this together. There's a mess going on. How are we going to solve it? How are we going to manage it? That's kind of like in very brief. And then when you start that work, you go back into that family of origin to heal, not to understand or judge our parents, just to heal us, to see who the adult is sitting here with us now. Why are they showing up like this?
And how's the best way to heal oneself from, the experiences as a child? Because I can very much relate to what you are saying from, my memories growing up as a child, where I kind of very much lived in my sister's shadow. I was always trying to
Mm,
live up to her, what she was doing. So I didn't really have um, clarity in what I truly wanted in life because I just followed a shadow because she was my elder sister and I
right.
idolized her as a young girl. So how can we change that, to have that, to heal that trauma?
Right. So, in other words, you kind of were lost in her. Your definition and self identity was defined by who she was.
Yeah, very much
And
so.
you didn't have a connection with your own self and your own desires.
No, because it was just myself and my sister. Um, we very much were together a lot growing up. And she was the person that I looked up to for fun. She was the person I looked up to for, even when I went to university, I remember like phoning her up and saying, "How do I deal with this? How do I deal with this situation?" Because
Right.
I never fully discovered the relationship with myself and that inner dialogue because I'd
Mm-hmm.
always had my sister present.
Right. So it sounds like she kind of took on a parenting role
Yeah.
for you. And the way to get to that inner dialogue is to notice when you're getting what I call this whoosh, this trigger, that you're showing up in your relationship, something's bothering you, and you're not necessarily reacting anymore to the person in front of you.
Mm.
You've actually been taken back to that younger time. And you don't remember trauma, you relive trauma. And the only way we can begin to heal that is with the other. We're not wired to be by ourselves and work this all out by ourselves. We're wired for togetherness. We help each other, we co-regulate each other. In other words, if you see a child in a park running to its parents, if the parent hugs that child, you feel a calming down. And then the parent can take on a parental or leadership role. Parent can do one of two things, can say, the child can say, oh, I'm really scared. And the parent can say, but there's nothing to be afraid of. Then the child will feel unheard. So that's a trauma that can happen daily, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're always overreacting. And that becomes your inner dialogue. Or the parent can say, come, oh, I feel that you're scared. And when you have that calming down, tell me about that. Then the parent can step in as the leadership role. Um, so my advice to any kind of trauma healing is to really either find a good friend who will hear you, because many people feel they have not been heard. They don't have that voice, or a professional who can work with you. It's just not something that we can do on our own. We very often need reparenting.
Yeah.
What's been missing in our lives, what we're longing for. Because what happens is we have what we call 5 losing strategies that really we think will bring us together, but they actually pull us apart, like control and being right. Those are a couple of them. Like, I know what we need to do here. You need to get on board. Let me just eradicate your view. That's not going to draw us closer together. That's going to pull us apart. If you think of our relationships as our ecosystem, it's like our house, right? We're dependent on them. We live in them. We don't live above them or below them. You spoke about hierarchy. Our relationship, an intimate relationship, or any relationship that's going to be vulnerable and good, demands democracy.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You can't do it from here. So if you think of it as your lounge, let's say your living room, your common living space, you can scream and shout here. Your partner will retaliate, will withdraw, will get angry over here, punish you. It's almost like you're throwing garbage into the living room and you're both saying, okay, now we just got to breathe in this pollution. You need to clear it up. You need to have that big picture in mind. This is for the good of both of us. Let's remember love. Why? Because we live together. We're not enemies.
Yeah.
So let's see what's going on here. Why is there so much anger? How can we enjoy ourselves more together? We
Yeah,
tend
because
to forget that.
absolutely. I mean, I think sometimes it just happens subconsciously where sometimes it's very difficult to stop the noise because it's something that you're programmed with, you know. And I think for me on my own personal journey, I found it very hard to stop because there are moments, probably still today in my life, where I'm just like, where has that come from? Where, because I find myself sort of like getting into an automatic kind of reaction.
Beautiful. That's exactly what it is. And that's
Yeah.
what's not working for you anymore. It's what we call a knee jerk reaction. That's
Mm.
always how you respond, and you get the same response from your partner.
Yeah.
And what we're doing here is bringing even maybe the first step to awareness. What can I do to choose door B for a change? Because door A doesn't work for us anymore. But I need to make the change because I'm the one who's complaining and being upset about it. So I might need a pause
Mm.
before I respond. Instead of being reactive, I want to respond. Being responsible is the ability to respond to what the other person has said. And yes, it does take work. And yes, many people say to me, what we have to learn this? Yes, because I can guarantee you didn't learn repair in your family of origin.
Mm.
And every relationship, unlike Facebook, will tell you there's harmony, there's rupture, repair. I think that's from Ed Tronick. Began this idea of closeness. There's a break, there's closeness again. It can happen 30 times in the space of a conversation, it can happen over decades. And how do we come to that repair? What do we do to get to the repair? And that skill training and practice, practice, practice. Yes, it doesn't necessarily sound so natural in the beginning, but look how well natural is working out for you because
Yeah,
we're not taught this in our families of origin. We're not taught how do you do the repair.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because we have in our abundance movement, we have the abundance acronym is actually a roadmap because we provide free education. So we give
Hmm.
a roadmap to empowerment. And the first one is awareness to change. And I think for some people, that awareness to change, you know, how do we get to that point, do you think, of seeing that awareness of, hang on a minute, I need to do something of changing a relationship or changing something within myself, that relationship with myself. How do people, do you think, get to that point?
Well, I love what you said about the empowerment. So
Mm,
if you look at the feminist movement said, we were weak, now we're strong. I can do any job that any man can do.
hmm.
What we want to get is relational empowerment. I'm going to work a full day. You're going to work a full day. How are we going to manage this family when we come back together? Remember, I said about the democracy, the eye to eye. And the only way that you come to that is when you want to always remember that the big prize is the relationship. Okay, you don't sacrifice to your partner. You sacrifice to the good. That's what altruism is in this case. It's to the relationship. What's going to make this work? In other words, in your partner's having some hissy fit, on a good day, you're grounded. So it might be a bad day for him and a so-so relationship a so-so day for the relationship, a great day for you, where you're not going into the mud with him.
Hmm.
And that awareness only comes when there's some unhappiness going on here. I'm not getting what I need. And relationships are about getting what you need, giving your partner what they need, and then learning to cherish what healthy giving and getting bring. And that means you might need to say to your partner, this is what I need. What can I do for you and to give me that? In other words, I need to know that when you say you're coming home at 7, you're coming home at 7, not at 8. What can I do to make sure that, and your partner must say, oh, you know what, I'm like so busy with something, I just forget, let's just say. What can I do? Because that's what I need to know. Just, are you coming at 7? Are you coming at 8? The food's getting cold. Da, da. Can I send you a text? Shall I send you a text at 6 to see how many more hours you're going to be at work? Yeah, oh, that would be helpful. Yeah, yeah, thank you. You need to give him the support that he needs to give you what you need.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, in the conversations you mentioned about being grounded, what does being grounded mean to you?
Such a great question. It means like, because I love you, I see that you've lost it. You need something right now. What can I do right now for you? What do you need right now? Oh, well, you never, da, 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 da. No, I can't fix what I haven't done. The work I do is very specific. Tell me right now what I need, what I can do. Oh, well, you can say sorry. Oh, I want to give you that. It's not a dialogue. We're not in a dialogue when that's when but when we're having an argument, it's not a dialogue.
Mm.
When you're upset and I'm grounded, means I see that you're upset and I want to know what can I do for you right now? I see you're having a rough time. What do you need from me right now? You really annoyed me when you did X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. I need you to say sorry. Oh, I can give you that. I need you to commit that you'll go to an AA meeting 5 days a week. Oh, you know what? I can do it once a week. I can't do it 5 days a week. And then can you receive what you've been given? Because you're not necessarily going to get everything because you're not talking to Santa Claus here, right? You might get 5%. And can you celebrate that?
Yeah.
Can you notice it and celebrate it? And that's where abundance comes in. I'm
Mm.
so grateful. I'm so grateful that you agreed to go to that AA meeting once a week. Thank you.
Yeah, because being grateful
Appreciate
is, that's something I learned very late on in my, journey thus far. I would say thank you to people, but I never really meant it. When it
it.
comes from the heart, when it comes from who you are. I mean, people say we're such a polite, girl or whatever, but it's because probably from my origins, my family are very respectful because I come from a very Mediterranean family. We're very much about saying thank you, being grateful and everything like that. But I never really meant it. I never meant,
You never felt it.
no, I never felt it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful insight.
Yeah. And
It's kind of like you were told to do this.
yeah, I think so because my father is and still a very humble gentleman,
Mm,
and I think that's probably observing from him and seeing him being very humble and gracious. But, it was just something that I saw. It wasn't something that I felt.
right. Right.
Um,
Maybe there was a disconnect in his saying it and what he felt. You might have picked that up.
yeah, maybe I'm not sure, but now I feel it. I'm
Right.
like extremely grateful and thankful for everything that I'm doing currently. But yeah.
Beautiful. That's so
Um,
beautiful.
Thank you. I've got a question. Someone's asked, how do I have a relationship with my higher self?
What is a higher self?
So I think
Is this
it's more to do with no like a soul, kind of, that soul being where you feel enlightened and you feel that you your full potential.
Uh-huh. So what it sounds like to me is kind of like our core, and the listener, if it's not correct, is welcome to write to me. But what I hear when I think of a higher self, I think of a core that's creative and compassionate and caring. That's really beautiful.
Mm,
That's a beautiful part of us that we all have that sometimes gets lost
yes.
and it gets lost in parts of us that might be angry and sad. And what I always say to everybody is, we all have that core of these parts of us that are, as I say, so gracious and generous. But sometimes they get hidden by other parts that are vying for attention. So there might be something in our lives going on that's making us show up quite angrily. And then I always say, let's look at that. Let's give that place a part. In other words, instead of saying, you know what, I don't need this arm, I think I'll just chop it off. I don't need to walk around. That's ridiculous, right? Of course, I need this arm. So I need the part that's angry. It's coming to tell me something. I need the part that's sad. I always say, we sometimes just we don't want that range of emotion. We want to just be happy, 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 and that's what social media plugs all the time, right? But the real deep person is happy and sad. The meaning of life isn't to get to happiness. Some of the things we do will bring us happiness. Some of the things we do will bring us sadness. Let's acknowledge that too. Let's take in all our parts and not judge them as ugly.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if that answers her question of a higher.
Yeah, I
of a
think
higher being. But that's how I see it.
I think what you're saying is spot on because I think, as you say in social media, I think it gets us into a position where we're striving for perfection all the time. And
So
it,
yeah,
and I
that's very
don't
much so. Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with having it's probably loving your flaws as much as you love, you know, everything else about yourself.
absolutely. That's so beautifully put. It's about nothing that harshness will do.
Mm,
That loving kindness won't do better. And part of that is saying, I love myself for my being human. I
mm,
am human. I have flaws. I get mad. I get angry. I get all of the above. The question is, how quickly can I return to center and being grounded? And that's the practice. And a relationship isn't, I'm in a relationship, it's something out there. It's a minute to minute practice. I feel you feeling me, feeling you. I'm sitting here with you now. We were talking about that before we came on. What does it mean to be fully present with someone? It's such a beautiful gift. And sometimes we have distractions in our background or in the foreground that don't allow us that.
yeah,
And we lose that. But to remember, that's what we think we're going to marry gods and goddesses, right? And they're going to come and they're going to heal all our wounds and complete the conversation we didn't have. But they actually come like a hot spear into our eyeball and highlight everything that doesn't seem healing,
yeah,
because it's a collision of their flaws with what's also human in us.
yeah. And I
It's
think
like our partner didn't get a perfect partner.
yeah, and I think in some sense, for within the abundance movement, we talk about wealth. And, from our childhood, everything that we learn, these fairy tales, about relationships and,
Mhm.
about wealth and everything like that, the princess and, those sort of things. But we
You
also
might
need
have
to,
come out of rehab.
yeah. And, for me, like, I do think that disrupts our relationship with wealth and abundance because, first of all, to attract the wealth and abundance, you need to find the relationship that's going on in here first.
Absolutely. We need to take that pause in the day every day to
Mm,
reconnect. For some people it might be through prayer, some
mm,
people meditation, and other people through movement. But to take that pause, which in some ways our cell phones, I suppose, and the computer have taken away from us, there is no pause time. Where we're not connected, so to speak. I mean, I do, as a practicing Jew. Me and my family, we go off everything, all phones, all computers for 25 hours every week
wow.
over the Sabbath. No driving, no nothing like that, no cooking, um, and we're together. It's just that catch up time. Um, you said something else that came up for me about that abundance, but yeah, it's so much about what goes on in our heads, between our ears.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, because of the community that we're creating as well in the movement, that to me signifies wealth as well,
Beautiful,
because
the wealth of the people.
yes, and that's what we're all about, we're all about giving to receive here at the movement. And I think that's so important in the relationship that we have with our wealth in the future is that ability to be able to do that because I think that's where the abundance will stem from.
Right, and I love what you said about the future, because that's also a trauma sister, a symptom when we feel. I would get on so much better with you if you were a little bit more evolved, if you were a little bit more conscious and aware, if you were a little bit more down the road, which tells me I'm uncomfortable here where I am. And that in itself is something to look at.
Yeah,
Why do I want to be there? Why am I looking away? to an imaginary future. As Byron Katie says, it's loving what's now, what's in front of you right now. That's exactly where you're supposed to be. And what are the gifts and the challenges in that?
Yeah, I love Byron Katie, and I've been starting to read Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now,
Uh-huh. Beautiful.
which is
Exactly.
just a fascinating read. It really does. But Bev, I could talk to you all day. You are amazing. You've taught
Thank
me so
you.
much in this short space of time. Thank
Thank
you so much. You're a wonderful
you.
person. How do people find out more about you?
They can always write to me through my website. It's bev.co.il. Very easy. Or social media, they can look me up. They can DM me if they have any questions. No problem.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for
Pleasure.
today.
It was
It
lovely
was,
speaking to you.
yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I could literally talk to you for hours. You are amazing. Thank you so much, and I look forward to hopefully hearing from you soon.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Oh, hang on. I've got a question. I'm so sorry. There is a question for you. What's the question? I can't see it here. Oh dear. Oh, yeah. How did you begin your journey on understanding awareness on mental well-being, mental health?
Beautiful. So before went into relationship coaching, I was kind of a general coach, but I had a part of me that was completely hidden. And then almost 4 years ago, my parents were dying in the same year as my husband spent a year depressed. And the straight hair literally stood up like this, if it could. And I didn't know what was going on. And I would take him, let's go to this couple's therapist, let's go to this couple's therapist. And nobody took me on, or the couple, the coupling, that all took him on. And every time I would leave and I would be in tears. So I think through our own journey, where I finally found the work that I do, which is RLT coaching, therapy, relational life therapy, where they look at the whole couple and the whole unit and the whole system. And then when I was telling you earlier about remembering love, I could see my part in his healing and take on the journey together to healing. So my husband is also in on what I do. He comes to workshops with me because, as I said, a relationship is something that needs to be worked on. So
Yes.
that's how I got into it and I tried so desperately to hide what was going on in my personal life. And not be vulnerable and expect my clients to tell me everything. You be vulnerable, you share, but I wasn't sharing in my own healing journey.
Wow. I love that. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
I'm sorry about that last minute question there,
No, it's no
but
problem.
they're passionate, they're raring to go.
That's well. How many people are in your movement?
At the moment, we have about 100.
Very nice.
Yes, but it's growing fast, and we totally believe in the movement. We have some extremely passionate people supporting us, and we're so humbled by that because they believe in the vision and the mission, and
Wonderful.
it's exciting. We're
Excuse me.
creating new developments every day, and we believe that this is the future of business, and it's going to go far.
Beautiful. And it so should.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I don't think I have any more. Uh, no, but yes, do contact Bev if you've got any other further questions. I'm sure she'll be happy to take them and check out her
Pleasure.
website. But no,
Very
thank
well.
you. Thank you so much for today. It was an absolute pleasure. Take care, Bev, and hopefully I'll speak to you soon.
You too. Bye.
Bye.